Welcome to another episode of the Zoho CRM Show. Today we are joined by Rakesh Gupta, a distinguished customer experience leader with over 2 decades of expertise in crafting seamless service journeys. Rakesh currently leads customer service operations and CX at Panasonic Life Solutions, which is anchored by Panasonic, with deep expertise in service delivery, customer lifecycle management, and satisfaction strategy. Rakesh has built and optimized pan-India service networks that set new benchmarks for the consumer durables and electrical construction material sector. Rakesh, thank you for joining me in this episode of the CRM Show. It's wonderful to have you here.
And thanks, Ashini, and thanks to Team Zoho for me being at the part of CRM Show.
And I also have to thank Uday because Uday was like, you have to host Rakesh and he'll be a great speaker for the show as well. So I was like, okay, let me talk to him and see if his availability. And luckily, you were also available around the same time. We've been talking for 2-3 weeks now, and it's finally nice to see you in person.
Thanks once again. And Uday is a dear friend. You know, we have been to multiple conclaves and events together, so that's how we know more about each other. But yes, we meet normally on those such events or such talk shows as well.
Right, okay. So the ground rule that I set for all the episodes that I shoot in Zoho is it is not a strict corporate professional shooting at all. So we want to break that stereotype and we want to make tech more enjoyable. You know, business domain related topic where everybody is sitting in a very dark room with just a couple of, mics here. No, we don't want that. We want to we want to make our guests experience the aesthetics of it, also share their candid feedbacks and their opinion on the show.
I must say, indeed, the setup itself is quite comforting. You know, I'm feeling that I'm sitting at a place where at my native kind of thing, you know, so it's a quite comfortable setup. And thanks once again for the show.
Okay. First question is, BPOs or service industry generally, especially in the customer servicing industry, has got a negative annotation to it where it is, it's too process oriented, or you'll not get the kind of flexibility, or sometimes support engineers do not have the enthusiasm of working in that kind of a domain. But you started out building almost 2 decades of your career in this, customer service and customer experience domain, starting from GE Medical Systems to, Philips, then Usha and Tata Sky, and also currently you are leading head of customer experience and customer service for Anchor by Panasonic. Tell me how your journey happened and why this industry?
And it all happened when I was during my engineering days. There was a subject, biomedical instrumentation, and that subject itself fascinated me, and I was hell-bent that after completion of my academics I am going to join biomedical instrumentation. And I was, one of the fortunate individual who was able to join in GE Medical Systems at the inception of my career. Now, in biomedical instrumentation, the kind of repairs you do, the kind of activities which you do are clearly related to somebody's health or life or death.
Yeah.
So when I started off with GE Medical Systems, it came into my individuality, the sense of ownership, or the kind of appreciation or the kind of satisfaction you get once you repair a machine and a patient's life is saved, or somebody who is struggling, or even setting up a hospital which will save thousands and thousands of lives for many decades to come. It gave me a sense of urgency also. In customer services, as we all know, turnaround times are very important. Yeah. So coming back to the contact center, yes, there are limitations when there are thousands and thousands of calls coming up per day. The agents used to have the mics on, listening to the consumer queries or complaints for the endless years of their life. Now, what I have done throughout my career, first 3/4 of my career was core into field services, where I was managing teams, when I'm managing products on myself, and I'm getting trainings to the team members. And the next, 1/4 or 3/4 where it started is from the experience part of it. So I personally believe we have to make the life comforting for the contact center individuals and give them same sort of empathy which organization want to have for the consumer.
Today, probably we will just write down a service ticket which could be answered a couple of days or 3 days later as well. And it was like a call center as well. But today, if you see, you spoke about how turnaround time has become more important, right? As soon as you get a query, we are all working towards how can you give them the quickest resolution possible. So you've been a first-hand witness of this entire journey, of this entire evolution. So walk me through how the industry in itself grew.
If you ask throughout my career journey, the customer expectations or aspirations have taken a sea change, as well as the organization's purview also has taken a change. I'll take you a couple of decades back. When I started off my career, we were used to note down the consumer complaints on registers, or maximum possibility was maintaining it in the Excel sheets. There were CRMs, but there were more of registration tools. There were those were not the CRMs. So those registration tools, once something is registered, there was no tracking how much time did it got solved, whether we were able to solve up to the customer satisfaction or not. Those were not during those days. But yes, of late, with the induction of technology and with the rising customer expectations, organizations understanding the importance of customer services, there has been a lot of investment which has been done on the tech side of it. So now we are, we are fully fledged. Any of the consumer queries we will be able to answer in a fraction of seconds with the help of chatbots.
Yeah.
That was not the case decades back. Somebody has to register a service request, then there will be a scheduling, an engineer will be visiting. I'll tell you, when I was an engineer, if I visit to a customer place, within 3-4 days of a service request registration, I would have been appraised. Today, if you are late by 2 hours, the consumer felt that he's not being treated up to his expectation levels. So there has been a change in the consumer expectation level, as well as the organizations have tried to deliver maximum. And with this, induction of this quick commerce, people want services in 10 minutes, or you get everything at your house, at your ease, at your convenience, within the time frame. The things have been changing rapidly, and that has been motivating me through. As some of my customer, my entire journey. As I mentioned, I started off with biomedical instrumentation, which was a hardcore technical job, myself repairing machines worth of crores rupees. In fact, I was one of the first 15 batch of technicians who got trained on a color Doppler machine in India. So first 15 people from India who got trained on color Doppler machine, I was one of them. Got trained in Germany. Even when I was an engineer, on the front line engineer, I went to Germany for a training for a color Doppler machines.
Okay, coming to Tata Sky. Tata Sky being a biggest national network, one of the biggest national networks, and also the fact that there are millions of subscribers, huge adoption, okay, to manage, and quality of service has to be top notch, nothing less than that. So to manage service for that, wouldn't have just needed like a strategy in place, but also systems as well in place. So give me stories about how you managed Tata Sky's customer service and experience.
So, it was refinding America when Tata Sky was launched. DTH services was there. It was existing prior to launch of Tata Sky also, but it was more of a mom and pop shop services that anybody who goes or installs a dish, or the channels start coming up, most of a SSD kind of culture. But Tata Sky was the organization which brought in an organized service setup in this entire industry. I still remember those early days when we were part of the launch team, and the directives from the management was very clear. The service is going to be the differentiator, not the product, not the pricing, not the contact. So the directives was clear. So being a part of the launch team, we were being tasked. I was handling the western Rajasthan part, one of the most geographically challenged territory in the country. The desert areas where you will not find water during those days. You will not find villages in 50 kilometers. You will not find any town in 50 kilometers. At that time, we were being tasked to develop a service network which was able to resolve the customer queries within same day or 6 hours. Imagine 6 hours service during 20 years back, 2006, 2007. So what we did, we created a service infrastructure, but the creation of service infrastructure itself was a tedious task, but was not sufficient enough. So it has to be backed up by a world-class infrastructure wherein you were able to track where exactly you want to go. DTH being installed at the customer premises, you'll have to be very accurate.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? What would be the travel time? How the product will be delivered at the customer place? How the engineer will be traveling? And all these systems, we had a beautiful CRM which got inducted during the Tata Sky days. There were months of trainings on the CRM itself for the engineers, for the team leaders, for the contact center team. And yes, the systems which have been developed during those times, those systems are running still now. The same CRMs would have been running till now. And I still remember the days wherein the 2007 World Cup, 2020 World Cup, that came up, and the volume shot like this. It was a vertical growth. The volumes got 20x on one fine morning.
Right. And so would have been your support requests and also,
yes,
right?
The installation request, support request, anything. And the support request, I have part of the, as I mentioned, Western Rajasthan team. A big storm came up and then you will have 20,000 service requests on your board next day morning. The dishes would have got misaligned. So the scalability or the variations in volumes was very heavy.
Okay.
So it was very important to have a robust CRM which is able to handle such uncertainties also and keep giving backup to the field services team.
Right, got it. Another question is, when we are talking about service, we are also talking about it. There has to be accurate SLA, there has to be good NPS, and there has to be quick resolution. All of that, right? All of those metrics play along in the service. But what is also important is human empathy. Operational efficiency, yes, for sure. But at the end of the day, you're still dealing with a human on the other end. No matter how frustrated, no matter how irritated, no matter how happy he is, you will have to put aside all your personal emotions, whatever you are going through, etc. Your team has to do that as well, and attend to them in a very empathetic manner while also focusing on these metrics. So how do you maintain this balance between this bridge? Because these are two different worlds it's really hard to tie them together. So what was your strategy for that?
This question is what we have been thinking day in, day out. The customer service professionals or the customer experience professional have been thinking of striking this balance day in, day out of their lives. Yes, I agree. The SLAs are important. The speed of service is important. But as you mentioned, at what cost? Whether we are losing the human empathy angle at that point. Now, if a consumer is coming back to the organization with a request, that means he wants an organization to respond. Now, we have to respond to the customer with the speed what he is expecting for. And in today's competitive world, speed has always being taken the front seat. Now, speed is important, but the empathy is also important. Now, how come this empathy is kept alive while doing those transactions? So it is always about the transactional level that we consider these service requests not only as a chance to resolve the customer query, but we consider this as a chance to develop a connect with the consumer. Sometimes the consumer has bought the product and he has taken the product to his home. Now, when he will get connected to a brand, it's an opportunity to create a connect. It's an opportunity to create a lifelong impact on the customer mind. It is an opportunity to make him a loyal customer. It is an opportunity to make him an advocate of the brand. So when it is possible that the frontline team members who are at the touch points, it could be a shop salesman. It could be the dealer distributor. It could be the delivery individual which has walked into the customer house to deliver that product. It could be an engineer who went to install. It could be a service repair engineer. Or even when consumer has decided to scrap the product, how better we are able to take that product and give an product in exchange. So these touch points, at these touch points, we always strive to maintain that empathetic angle that consumer wants something from the brand. He is paying for the experience. So we should be empathetic with the consumers. And the only people who can do it, not the boardroom members or not the customer experience leaders like me. Only people who are able to take this up on their shoulder are the frontliner team members. So we have to make them as an army of empathy drivers, rather than making them only the repair technicians or the installation technicians or the contact center staff. As I mentioned, they have been taking up calls throughout the day. So how better we are able to inculcate a culture within our contact center team that it is good to answer a call on the time, it is good to have an AST, but at the time don't lose the human element of it. So we'll have to work a lot on training, motivation, engagement of the frontline team members.
How do you do that? How do you keep your team motivated?
Keeping them within touch like anything. We speak to our frontline engineers. We have a lot of training programs. We have something unique which we do it in Panasonic is like chai samosa meeting in the morning.
Okay.
So whenever the engineers are there in the office to collect their tools or spare parts, we just sit with them up and have a chai samosa.
Okay.
Oh, how was your experience yesterday with that consumer? And we ask them to share their experiences. That if what was the most irritated customer or most kind of expecting customer you found last week, and how did you overcome that challenge? So if an engineer within the team tells to others that this is what I have done, so it becomes a benchmark. So that motivates, this guy can do, I can also do. And it gives a sense of
healthy
belongingness also, that I belong to this company, this guy has just done justice to the consumer and the company, why can't I?
Right.
So it becomes inculcated. In contact center industry, we for our contact center operations, we find out the best calls. And during those our monthly reviews, during those the get-togethers, or even at the dinner parties, what we do, we play those calls.
Oh, okay.
And we want others to listen that what this guy has done stupendously fantastic.
Okay.
We want others to learn that.
Right.
So learning from the best examples and giving them a sense of inspiration from the members within. If we tell them, it becomes like a classroom boring lecture. But if somebody from them becomes a hero out of them, that's what we mainly focus upon.
Okay, you have worked in large businesses which are popular names, right? Like you can have Usha, you can have Tata Sky, you can today Panasonic. So all of these have huge customer data sets as well, collection of customers trust over the years. And there are also records of a product registration, or there is service history, or then there is also loyalty program. So you get all these customer information. Now the question to you is, how do you marry that customer information to making it available to the salespeople for upselling, or maybe for anticipating their needs or understanding what the requirements are for our own service development?
Now, as a customer experience professional, Ashwini, what I have done throughout my career, first thing is that I have never looked a customer as a data set. Or a consumer having X product or a consumer having Y product, X product have been served this many times, or Y product is giving that much of revenue. What I always intend to create a holistic profile of a consumer. What that holistic profile will give an excellent idea to the organization that what could be the opportunities to engage with this customer, whether it is for experience, whether it is for sales, whether it is for upselling the certain product. And when you create such strong profiles with the data sets available with the organization with the help of CRM, it gives you a lot of insight. For example, if a consumer, if we get an idea that this consumer has bought X product, and then we obviously know that after completing the finishing work at his house for the X product, this consumer is gonna to go and buy Y product. In the subsequence, for example, if you have completed the bathroom fittings or the hardware fittings, next thing which an consumer is going to buy is an exhaust fan or a water heater. So we know then how efficiently you can transfer these data back to your CRM systems and for the use of the sales teams. So and it is not only about data transfer, this customer is going to purchase water heater. No, it has to be an insight that this has been completed and we expect that another 15 days this consumer is going to buy another product which could be added to our organization portfolio. It could be a subscription as well. A consumer has bought an home automation, IoT kind of subscription for us, and it is going to expire in XYZ days. Now, when you connect to these IoT systems nowadays, home automation system, there's tons and tons of data which is coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
The usage pattern, the AC is being used 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
or the lights are being switched off at 10:30 normally in the morning, or customer is waking up. So we can use all these data sets to create profiles which could be helpful for the consumer. Then we flow these particular data sets back to our product development teams also. That we have observed a pattern that in the northern part of country, our water heaters are being used for 4 hours a day, or the air conditioners in Chennai is being used throughout the day. So to analyze these data, converting them into the insights and flowing them into the product teams, the development teams, and most importantly the sales team. So that way we are leading the change in our organization to provide inputs to consider these an opportunity for upskill and sales.
Got it. For the longest time, customer experience domain itself has been viewed as a cost center, but you always say that it's a value center, it's a growth engine. And when you say it's a growth engine, which means we are also talking about today's tools. I think a decade back we were talking about software as a service, right? Today we are talking about platform as a service. Today it's not about building software over software, although it is siloed somehow through APIs. We're integrating all of them together so that they get connected. But today we are asking bigger companies are asking, give me a platform that can handle service, sales, marketing all together. That's my basic need. So the question here is, the service being viewed as cost center versus it is actually a value center, like how you tell in most of your posts. And another thing is, how do you link post-sales interaction to a customer advocacy or a value? So what is your thought on this?
So opportunities, it is very important, and I live by the philosophy that customer services is not only, customer experience is not the cost center. It leads to a consumer lifetime value. I am a believer of CLV. So what is the value which a consumer gives to the organization throughout his lifetime? It is not only about selling a product once or selling a product twice to the consumer. He may be requiring another set of products which is from your organization portfolio to buy in. Now, why a customer or an organization or an individual B2B customer will go for your purchases again and again? If you have given them the experiences across the touch points which I mentioned previously, which were overwhelming for them, you have created them as a brand advocate. So NPS, we have been using it for almost last 5 decades. What is the essence of an NPS? That the promoters are the ones who will keep on buying from you, as well as motivate other people to buy the products from a certain organization. Now, when we speak about this customer lifetime value, how better you are able to fragment that data. We don't know Harshini has buy X product from the same company and Y product from the same company because she has bought from the different customers. Now, only when Harshini comes back to the organization for an installation or a service request, then we come to know, oh, she has the 2 products. So now we have a segmentation that she is residing in an X level of geography, wherein we have observed these products are getting sold more, and give insights again to the sales team or to the nearest dealer, or to connect them to the nearest dealer, which is the sales opportunity for them. So it gives revenue to the organization. Now, when we sell service, when we have been into several marquee projects with the some government projects, wherein the payment to the organization is being made on that how much of energy saving we are able to do. How much of green credits we are able to generate for the organization. What is the sustainability goal we would have achieved? I'll give you an example. If you have observed, the street lights almost a decade back were almost the big sodium lights. Those were energy guzzlers. Huge level of energy consumption was there when these street lights were being on. Now, the organizations have shifted onto the LED lights, which are very, energy effective. Now, government organizations have started dealing with us that if we are changing this sodium light to the LED light, what is the quantum of energy you will be saving, and subsequently your payout will be there.
Right.
And it is always dependent upon the uptime of the product.
Right.
So, this is how we calculate, even though we are providing services to a street lighting project, but we are saving energy. We are doing good cause for the green sustainability and thereby earning revenue for the organization.
True.
So you'll have to link and show it to the management, show it to the boardroom
Yeah.
that by these X set of efforts,
Right.
how we are able to generate revenues for the organization.
Okay. Coming to your current role in Panasonic, Anchor by Panasonic. Anchor was acquired by Panasonic. Yeah.
So at Anchor by Panasonic, we are envisioning our, down the line 5 years and down the line 10 years. So we have a vision for 2030 and then we have a vision for 2035 that we want to be the most preferred brand in the industry for the customer experience segmentation. Now it looks nice to hear, but what is the strategy we
Yeah.
are going to work upon it? So we are going to create a vertical which is going to interact with the customers at the different touch points. And we are working in an industry where influencers play a very huge role.
Yeah.
If these influencers are the electrical contractors
Yeah.
or the electricians or the retail shops, so these influencers creates a mindset in the consumers thought process that which brand to go for
Yeah.
or which brand doesn't to go for.
Yeah.
To create tailor-made experiences based upon the geography, based upon the sales size, based upon the volumes, based upon the products which get sales into that particular geography, we are creating profiles for the consumers. We are running a lot of loyalty programs to make sure that we are able to showcase the capabilities of our customer experience team, show them the better examples what we have been done. We also want to present ourselves as a brand which cares for the consumers even after the sales. For that, I'll give you one example. The builder fraternity, when if you buy a flat, you may not have taken a decision to buy the anchor switches. That
Yeah.
decision would have been done by the procurement team of the builder or the contractor.
Yeah.
But now when it comes to as a consumer, how will you recall Anchor brand? So that's where we conduct a lot of service camps for our the occupants of the flat. So they may not have been decision makers in buying the Anchor switches, but now they are users. Eventually they are users for the Anchor product. So we create service camp across these residential societies for our B2B camps. So it gives an cutting edge to the organization to show that even we care after sales for them.
Okay.
So now whenever there is a buying decision for you as a consumer for another electrical product in your house,
Yeah.
so the brand recall remains with you.
Yeah.
So that's how we want to make ourselves customer experience friendly for the times to come.
Right. Throughout your career, you've been handling customer life cycle. And can you walk me through what the customer life cycle look like for Anchor by Panasonic, right from the inquiry that comes in to the product installation and then to service and then later feedback? So how does the entire journey transpire?
So the entire journey depends upon what time the consumer is getting connected to an organization.
Okay.
Whether it is for a one-time purchase, somebody wants to buy a fan or a water heater and then he gets in touch with the organization, or somebody is constructing a stout house from the scratch.
Yeah.
So that's where the profiling gets different. So if consumer is starting construction of his house, first thing he'll get a conduit pipes from us, then the metal boxes, then the wiring devices, then the wires, switch gears, fans, solar nowadays for energy saving purposes, then inverters. So we have all these entire product ranges available with us as an organization, and where we want to make a complete electrical solution. Anything and everything which is related to after sales is for my team to take care of it. Once the product is sold, it becomes a baby of the customer experience team to make sure that this customer remains with us throughout his lifetime. Any further purchases if he does for the electrical segment, the first thing which has to come up in the mind is with the Anchor by Panasonic.
I said that that's my last question, but I'm tempted to ask you this question badly. I know this is
Happy
a
to
question
answer.
that would be thrown at you everywhere, wherever you go, but I'm also going to ask you the same question. Do you think chatbots will evolve in a place where it can completely replace human interactions?
The answer is clear no.
Okay.
They will never be replacing the human interactions. Yes, we have to in my kind of thought process, what I am looking at, that we have to find the touch points where the emotional flow is highest. And the consumer is too emotional at that point of time. So for those times you will have to make sure that there is a human agent And for rest of the general queries, these AI ML chatbots with with humongous capabilities, I'm very fan of chatbots with these generative AI capabilities. I'm a strong advocate of them, but we'll have to use them where they are most successful,
Right.
not in the cases where they are being pushed upon the consumer.
Right, yeah.
So wherever emotional quotient is high, you'll have to take help of human agents. And how will you get the human agents for those specific high emotional peak moments? When you free up agents from their routine task with the help of these
Right.
ML generative AI chatbots.
Wonderful. Okay. So with that, we come to the end of the main segment. Next up, we have a few rapid fire questions for you. I'm looking for very spontaneous answers from you for this segment. Okay.
Ah.
So I'm sure you would have attended all these questions in a lot of your meetings or your conferences, etc. But rapid fire is going to be one of its kind, I think. So let's see how your experience is for this. Okay. The first one is, what's the one CX buzzword you secretly wish would disappear?
AI.
Okay. Next question is, which team stresses you out the most? Sales or IT?
Sales.
Okay. What's the strangest customer feedback you've ever received?
The consumer strangest feedback is the expectation which was out of the world. The product was X and the expectation was on the Y axis.
Okay. And if you weren't in CX, what would you be doing instead?
I would have been a travel blogger.
Oh, really? You like traveling, is it?
I love traveling.
Okay.
And that's what motivation for me being into the CX, interact with people at different places.
Oh, okay. So you are actually a people's person then. Online or offline, you are a people's person.
Yes, I love to interact.
Okay, wonderful. Next up, we are moving to the Have You Ever segment, for which we have 3 placards for you. So this is the thumbs up placard. If you want to say yes, you can. And this is the thumbs down for no. And in case if you don't want to answer, you can use the smiley. Okay. So I'm going to hand them over to you.
Thank you.
Have you ever joined a customer call just to calm down your own team first? Many times or few?
Many times.
Okay. Have you ever secretly celebrated a negative NPS turning positive the next week? Yes? Okay. Do you want to say what it is about? Or?
It was a kind of improvement opportunity for me. The NPS has gone down, but it has given me an insight where my strategy was going wrong. So I was secretly observing, if this NPS would not have gone down, I would have never came to know about the flaw in the system.
Right.
So that was a trigger point to investigate, reimagine the entire process, and we did that, and the results became exceptional in the forthcoming week itself. So that negative NPS was a opportunity to
learn,
reintrospect.
Right. Okay, got it. Next one is, have you ever pretended to check the system just to buy some time on a tough customer call? You've never done that?
No, I'll always prefer to speak to the consumer with partiality and not giving false timelines.
Oh,
what
really?
I have always been.
Okay.
So there seems something went wrong. We apologize for that, and
Okay.
let me allow some time to correct this up. Rather than saying, sir, it could have been a system error, or you would have done something wrong, or somebody would have been leave.
Yeah.
So differing gives a negative impression to the customer.
Right.
So you be very partial with the consumer. Sir, this could have went wrong. Give us some time, we'll make it correct for you.
Sometimes as a customer itself, I face this where I would be put on hold saying, I will just check your data, check the system, please stay on hold, because I was angry.
Just to try to your patience level sometimes, so it becomes calm down, but that's not the right thing.
Yeah.
And as a philosophy, as a customer experience leader, I have always been of a strong thought that lesser you put customers on hold, better will be the resolution part.
Right.
We at our organization, we boast about one thing which is very specific, that we make sure that all our calls are being answered within 20 seconds.
Okay.
We don't want our customers to listen to the jingles for a long period of time.
Okay.
We want to ensure if we are not able to solve, we don't intend to keep them on hold for a longer period of time. We ask them to disconnect the call and we call them back up
Right.
once we have the solution in hand.
Okay, wonderful. Last question for the have you ever. Have you ever used your own company's support just to test the experience?
Yes.
Yes, you have. Okay. How was it? Experience?
It was a good experience, and then by using the entire organizational resources, we were able to get that what exactly customer is wanting, where exactly customer is moving towards, where the expectations are moving towards, and that helps us to devise our strategies for the forthcoming processes and policies which are going to implement it.
Right. Okay. With that, we come to the end of the entire episode, and I really could not believe that we have completed almost an hour of discussing everything related to customer experience and service. So it was very, I'm really happy to host you here, and thank you for also wearing traditional attire to match our set design.
No. I think the entire setup is complementing my attire now. See, the setup is complementing to the attire.
Right. Okay.
And yes, it was a pleasure to be a part of the CRM talk show at Zoho, and with all sort of the buzzword Zoho going on into the market. It is certainly a pleasure to be part and be at the campus of Zoho.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Rakesh. Thank you.
Thanks, Harshini.